I'm Cara. I'm the Fitness Protection Program Corporate Wayfinder, and I also trained many years ago as a yoga teacher, and I haven't taught a yoga class in a long time, and I'm going to give it a shot tonight. So hopefully you guys all enjoy this. I think this is just kind of my first go at it, and if you guys want to do sort of in-person live yoga sessions, that's great. If you wanted to work on specific postures together, I mean, you guys will see that my yoga is a work in progress as well. There are a couple things that I'm going to be working on that I won't be ready to demonstrate, but just going to give it my best shot. So the type of yoga we're going to do tonight is called, or today, whenever you're watching this, is called Sivananda yoga. I actually have notes, so you guys may see me looking at my notes. And this is a type of yoga that I really love. I trained as an Ashtanga teacher. Ashtanga is very fiery. It takes and it gives a lot of energy. Sivananda, I actually feel like it has more of a yin vibe to it. It has a much more mellow vibe, but I also feel like Sivananda gives a ton of energy. It's surprising because you actually spend a lot of time in Sivananda resting. So it doesn't feel necessarily like you're really like pushing it, but I always feel quite energized when I've done a Sivananda session. And part of that, and one of the things I'll walk you guys through, and maybe it's something if you guys are interested in, we'll expand on a little bit more later, is, sorry, if you hear that noise, I have a litter robot. So you may hear litter robot, you may see cats acting like idiots during this, so just be patient with me. Basically, I'm going to start with some breathing, a couple breathing exercises, and that's something we can expand on. I'm not an expert at pranayama, which is, the sort of breathing exercises that are tied to yoga, but it's something, again, like I said, we can all explore together. So just make sure, if there's anything, yoga should never hurt. That is really one of the, well, I don't want to go into too much of a lesson, but I'll say right now that yoga shouldn't hurt. You should feel like you're stretching, you should feel like you're challenged. It shouldn't hurt, and it's not a competition. I've always heard people say, oh, I'm really bad at yoga. I'm really, really bad at it. And I'm like, well, if you're on the mat, then you're good at yoga. If you got on the mat, then you're great at yoga. You're the best at it because you're doing it. So, I think that's a good mindset to start this with. So to start off, I'm going to start you can start in lotus, you can start in half lotus, or you can start in what this is called, this is easy pose. So sit in easy pose, and we're going to do something it's a breathing exercise called Anuloma Vilonia. And so you take here we go. So you take your hand like this, and you're going to fold your first two fingers down. And so your thumb will go over your right nostril, and your pinky finger and your ring finger will go over your left nostril. Now, the left and right sides of the body have like two energy lines. The left side is Ida and the right side is Pingala. Now, if you are breathing correctly during the day, you're going to apparently do about an hour and 50 minutes on one side, and this happens automatically. This isn't something you need to be thinking about, but if you're in good health, you'll do about an hour and 50 minutes on one side with one nostril being dominant, and then you switch to the other side. And I mean, maybe this is something you guys have experience when you've had a cold and maybe like you'll have one nostril that's stuffed up and another. I don't know if those are related, but it seems like they might be. So what you're going to do is, and I'll just talk through it quickly for the first round, and then we can go into it together. So when you're breathing in through the right nostril, you put your fingers on your left nostril to block it. So it's breathing in for 2 breaths, or for 2 counts, and then you hold for 8, and when you're holding, you close both nostrils. And then you breathe out, holding your thumb over your nostril, and you breathe out on the left side for 4, and then you breathe in for 2, and then hold for 8, then right side breathe out for 2, then breathe in. So you're breathing, instead of breathing out and then, so in and then out on one side, you're actually breathing out then in, which is a little bit different than maybe what you're used to. So, to start, just get your hand, oh gosh, no, I have this one and then I have one like in the door right here. So this is gonna be interesting. So the 2 fingers over the left nostril, breathe in for 2, pinch and hold for 8, out for 4, left side, in for 2, hold for 8, out on the right, in for 2 on the right, hold for 8, out on the left, in for 2, hold for 8, out, right, in for 2, hold for 8, out on the left for 4, in for 2, hold for 8, and out on the right for 4. So you can pause, you can continue doing this, you can play around with it, but for right now I'm going to move on. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna just do some neck rolls. So just, to the right, back, left, around, just keep circling this way. And by the way, I am not one of those cool yoga teachers who does the mirror image so that you can look at me and be like, oh, like that's what I should look like. That's the mirror image. I actually am bad enough at knowing my left versus my right that I'm just gonna do like what I always do right side first, which is actually what you're supposed to do. So it's actually not good. It's not really good for me to switch and mirror you guys. So just letting my neck go, switching back and forth. My shoulders and neck are very painful, so this sounds like Rice Krispie treats. Okay. And then I'm just gonna lift, drop my shoulders. Now that's another breathing technique that you may at some point want to use. It's called Ujjayi breathing. You breathe in, and then when you breathe out, you really push it through your nose so it actually makes a noise. So I don't know if you're gonna hear this, it's a little subtle maybe, but you may have heard it in yoga classes with your neighbors and not thought it was very subtle. So breathe in. So it's kind of loud. Now the other thing that I want you guys to think about when you're doing this is they're called bandhas, it's your locks, it's your the core locks that actually like keep your body centered. And one of them is, it's called the Uddiyana Bandha, and it's like, it's kind of pulling in your stomach, but you're not like, I don't know, it's like, I think that it's like I've heard it described as like a string pulling your belly button back. You're not like sucking in, you're just tightening up. And then the other one is the Mula Bandha, which is basically it's your Kegel muscles. It's what you use to not go to the bathroom. You tighten that and you keep those bandhas locked, and they're going to give you power during your practice. And then the one thing one last thing I want to do is lion pose. So now, you guys may feel silly doing this, but you're probably in the privacy of your own room, and you guys are all watching me do this, on film. So just, go along with it. So you can watch me do one, and then, you can play along. So we're going to breathe out like a lion. So you breathe in. And as you breathe out, your hands go out and your eyes go up, your tongue goes out, and you just let it rip. There you go. You can do a few more of those if you feel like it. Just get you energized. So we're going to move on to sun salutations. Surya Namaskar is the Sanskrit name, and you guys might be familiar with these. Every type of yoga has a different kind of sun salutation that they use. This is a pretty basic one. There's not any in Ashtanga yoga, there's a lot of jumping back. This is much more kind of staying very grounded and pretty mellow. So, and just you just follow your breath, and I'm actually going to be better at telling you guys the breath than the moves, so I'll do my best. So, okay, this is mountain pose, Tadasana. So you get your bandhas locked, you tuck your pelvis in, pull that belly button back, and get that Uddiyana Bandha lock done. Get the Mula Bandha, so get it in and get it locked up. So you ready to go? Spread your toes out. Put the four corners of your feet on the ground to ground yourself. Good way, you can just lift your toes up, spread them out, and then smash them back down on the ground. So, breathe in, look up. Breathe out, fold forward. Breathe in, look up. Breathe out, one leg back. Hold, two legs back. And then exhale to the ground. Keep your elbows in. Breathe in, Cobra. You should be able to lift your hands off the ground here. None of this sort of cranking yourself up. And then breathe out, back into downward facing dog. Now, your heels may not touch the ground. That is fine. You can walk your feet, whatever you need to do. But you want to, important here, keep those bandhas locked. Your gaze actually is towards your navel, not towards your hands or towards your toes. Bend your elbows. You can kind of spread your shoulder blades out. And we want to stay here for a couple breaths. I remember when I was probably about 20 years ago when I used to do yoga with a friend, I hated this pose. And I hated sitting in this pose, and she was just like, oh God, I feel like I'm resting in this pose. I just thought she was crazy. But now I love it. I like to hang out in it. So breathe in, and I'm going to go back with the left leg because that was the leg that came back second. Back with the right leg. Breathe in, keep breathing in, look up. Breathe out, back into forward bend. Breathe in, flat back all the way up. And breathe out. Back to Tadasana Mountain Pose. Center yourself here again. Make sure tailbone is tucked. Everything is locked up. And then get ready for a second round. Okay, breathe in. And then swan dive flat back. Breathe out. Breathe in, look up. Breathe out. Left leg back. Hold your breath, right leg back. Down to the ground. Breathe in. And then breathe out into downward facing dog. Remember, you can walk your legs a little bit. Make sure your shoulder blades aren't smushed together. Okay, breathe in, look between your hands, bring your right leg back, bring your left leg back. Keep breathing in, look up. Exhale, fold forward. Breathe in all the way up. And then exhale. Now if you want, you can do a couple more of those. Right now, there's something under my mat. Bead. But I am going to move on to the next pose. So again, pause me if you want, do a couple more of those. And then we will be coming down to the ground. Now, one of the things I didn't mention about Savasana that I like so much, that makes it so different, is most yoga you start in standing poses and then you move your way to the ground. Shavasana flips that, and I think maybe that's why it's so energizing. So actually we're gonna start, gonna lie on our backs and do some leg raises. Let's see, I think you guys can still see me. So pull your right leg up, and then you can like grab your thigh, your calf, your ankle, and then, or you can be using a strap, and then just pull your leg towards you. Again, like make sure your root lock and your stomach lock are engaged, and then let that leg down, then left leg up, high. If you want to, pull yourself towards your leg, also possible to do. And then just pull that right leg in. Maybe give your back a little massage. Left leg in. And then both legs up. And then again, pull them towards you, and you can fold up towards your knees if you want. Whatever works for you. Now again, don't do anything that hurts. Keep your breathing strong. You can lower your legs back down. And then just, apparently this is called wind release. Can't imagine why. So yeah, just roll, you can roll your back out a little bit. I've been having crazy back problems pretty much since the day I turned 40, but it's been really bad recently, so this feels great. Okay, so now you're gonna come up to sitting from this. And the best way to come up from sitting, from lying on the ground, is roll over on your side. You can hang out here for a second, and then you push yourself up. That's kind of the best way to do it without, straining your back. So the next pose is headstand, Shasana. Now this is, I'm not going to show headstand today. I am going to instead show dolphin, which is it's a precursor to headstand. So that just kind of gets you ready for it. But if you want to do headstand, this is the place to do it. In headstand though, you shouldn't be, just to be clear, especially in Sivananda, you shouldn't be kicking up into headstand. You should be kind of moving into it quite slowly. I can give a quick demo of what that should look like, but let me just show dolphin first. So you put your hands kind of like, you grab your elbows, that's how far apart your elbows should be, and then you grasp your hands together. And then you're going into something that looks like downward facing dog. And then you can stay here, or if you want to challenge yourself, you can start moving your forehead down to your hands. And in this pose, you should really be, all your power should be coming from your core. Like I can really feel the burn in the Uddiyana Bandha. So you can, again, stay in dolphin. You can move back and forth, or you can, if you want to give headstand a little shot. Oh man, sorry, I have a little infestation of cats here. Now I'm just going to show really quickly what your headstand should look like as you're moving into it. Now again, if you haven't done headstand before, this isn't the moment to start, so I'm not really going to go through the technique. But if it is something you do and you're comfortable with, then I'll just show you how to do it rather than how you should be getting up into it rather than kicking up into it. So you're gonna just be like, you'll just be tucking yourself in as much as you can, pushing into the ground, and like lifting your feet off the ground needs to come from here. It doesn't come from like a massive push. You should just be like, poop, poop, like just like pushing your toes against the ground the tiniest bit, and this part of your body should be doing the rest. So that's that. We'll work more on headstand some other day. Now, the next pose is shoulder stand, which is Sarangasana in Sanskrit, which actually means all parts pose, because basically your whole body is, getting in on the action. Now, something to, like if you have pain in your neck, one of the things that you can do is, so let me grab this and I can demonstrate. If you have a towel or a yoga mat or like a yoga towel or whatever, you can just fold it up so that your shoulders go onto it and your head is actually on the ground. Let me just get my ponytail out of the way. So, okay. Now, the way I get into this is I push kind of into plow first, and then I move my elbows in as much as I can, move my hands down my back, and then straighten out my body. I don't know what it looks like. I don't often see myself in this pose. I sound funny because this is another bandha that I can't remember the name of, but it's like a neck lock. It starts with a J. So you can just stay in here. I usually stay in this pose for about 15 breaths. And
you know, you can keep trying to move your elbows in and your hands down your back so you get into a straighter position. And yeah, I'm actually glad I folded up my little towel because I can definitely feel that on my vertebrae. So the next pose is Halasana. This is the plow pose. You want to drop your feet behind your head. Yeah. Oh, I love this pose. And you can hang out here for as long as you want. Don't worry if your toes don't touch the ground, or you can bend your knees, like whatever you need to do. And then to come out, whenever you're ready, you just kind of really want to be quite controlled, if you can be, and roll down. Now, if you're an expert at this sort of thing and you know what's up, you can actually go straight from, you can go from plow back into shoulder stand, and then you can go into the bridge, or into wheel if you're really feeling crazy. But right now we'll just do the bridge. So get your heels as close to your bum as you can get them, and push up and get your elbows in, and then you're going to, you can do this on a block. I use my hands. Pull your knees in. This is kind of the counterbalance. This is like the counter to shoulder stand. Keep pulling those knees in. Keep pushing your feet into the floor. Yep. And again, if this is familiar to you, you can always come down and then push yourself up into wheel. Now, the other thing I should say is that if any point you've had just about enough of my nonsense, you can just drop it down into Savasana. I know I promised that was going to happen, and I actually forgot to do it after headstand. So, boo, bad me. So we can just do that for a second here if you want to. It's my other favorite pose. And I just feel like everything is like untwisting itself, unknotting itself, unaccordoning itself. Okay, come out of Shavasana. By the miracle of modern technology, my camera stopped recording last night, and I was so steamed that I didn't think I should keep teaching a yoga lesson, so I'm just going to finish now. And I've also, I live in Quebec, it was cold in my apartment, and so that's why I was wearing 18 layers of clothing. I've now realized that's not a great way to teach yoga. That's really like, it's fine for yin yoga, but not for something where you really need to kind of see what my body is doing. So I have changed, and I have just cranked the floor heating up to 11. That's on a scale of 1 to 10, not 11 degrees. Okay, so what's next? What's next is, and then, come out of Shavasana, like by rolling to your side and putting your hand down, pushing yourself up. Be very mindful about that. And what we're gonna do next is forward bend. Now again, with forward bend, we get into a position where we're like preparing ourselves for it, which is actually where we're sitting up, putting our hands behind us, and just, just sort of really pulling that Uddiyana Bandha and that Mula Bandha in, and like feeling what that feels like, through here, because we're gonna wanna keep our backs very straight. Forward bend isn't like, must get nose to knees. It's actually, you're like trying to put your chin on your toes. That's the direction you're going in. Okay, so sit bones apart and
just really ground into the ground. And then breathe in. Really straighten and lengthen the top part, your torso. Look up towards your hands and then start leaning forward, but you're hinging at your waist. See where you can get to with your arms out. Breathe in again. And then lean forward again. That's how you get into this pose. You breathe in and then you breathe out. Breathe in and then breathe out. At some point, maybe you'll grab onto your shins or your feet, your toes. You can do a big toe lock with your thumbs and your middle finger and your index finger. But what you want to be really doing is breathing in and coming out a bit, and then folding forward, hinging at the waist. I mean, eventually there will be some rounding as you move further down, but what you really want to be focusing on is just getting a lot of breath into this position. And really your forehead or your chin or whatever ends up touching your leg should be the last thing that gets there. It should really be sort of stomach, upper chest, and then chin. And again, this shouldn't hurt. If you need to bend your knees to do this, that's fine. If you just need to sit in staff pose like this, that is also completely fine. You're on the mat, you're doing great at yoga. Okay, next pose is Cobra. Now, this is, to be clear, if folks have done vinyasa, Cobra is not upward facing dog. It's not cranking all the way up, which I'm not even going to do a demonstration of what not to do because it would wreck my back. So it's the Cobra that you did in Surya Namaskar, where you're just lifting your nose off the ground, and you can lift your hands off the ground. Just breathing in, coming off the ground, seeing if you can get a little bit further. And it's good, you can hold in this position, whatever you need to do. Come back down. It's good to get those, get the core of your body sort of working to keep yourself in this position. Now, if you are comfortable going into a stronger pose, you can move your hands out and then push yourself up. And you can start pushing your hands back. And the full pose is actually, and I'm not going to demonstrate it, but it's bringing your toes up and touching your head with your toes. So, that's what we're working towards. I've never been able to do that, so. Okay. Now, that was a little bit of a workout on my back, so I'm just gonna get into child's pose right now, which is always an option at any point. I love hanging out in child's pose. So, you may have learned different ways of doing it, but I sort of make my legs into sort of a narrow V, forehead on the floor, and arms going back, not going forward. That's too much of a crank on your shoulders and your neck. I mean, for a resting pose. Rocking back and forth a little bit. Now, the next pose that is normally done in the series is locust. But I can't even do right now, I can't even do sort of the simplest version of it. So if that's something you want to integrate, if that's a pose that you know, you can do that now. You know, make sure that you put yourself into child's pose afterwards. And then we'll do the bow next, which is, this is a fun one. So, on your stomach, come up into Cobra, and then bring your feet back, and you're coming up into the baby Cobra, not the like, rah, Cobra. And if you can, grab your ankles. You can use a strap to do this. And then, in breath, you just are going to kind of push your feet up. I say that like it's so easy, but it's not. Trying to keep the knees together. And then as you can see, as I'm breathing, I'm naturally rocking back and forth. Okay, come out of that. If you want to give that another shot, you can rest here for a second. Sometimes it's nice to make the little pillow out of your hands and just take a little snooze. But as you're doing this, make sure you're switching your head back and forth. Not while you're doing it, but just on every other time. So you're not sort of cranking your neck in one way or the other. Okay, I'm gonna give that another shot. Up into baby Cobra. Grabbing my ankles. And then into bow. Now in my head, this looks unbelievably impressive. It's like perfect, it looks just like the yoga book, and that's fine because I'm putting all my effort in, but I think I'm gonna laugh pretty hard when I'm watching this video. And I see what I thought was a perfect D shape actually looks more like a squished beanie. Okay. But like I said, I'm on the mat, I'm doing yoga, so I'm great at this, and so are you. Okay. Gonna spend just have a little break in child's pose. Oof. Oh. Okay, really have to settle into that one. My back is like, what are you doing? One of the things I've been enjoying recently, well, enjoying is the wrong word, but since I have a lot of lower back problems, I've been doing this just thing on YouTube called The Foundation, and it's not yoga, it's a guy who's a trainer, and it's really focused on strengthening your core muscles so that your back is not taking the brunt of everything you do. And I've noticed a pretty big difference for myself. Okay. Next thing is Spinal Twist. You can either sit in lotus, in cross-legged position, or you can make it a little more exciting and cross one leg over the other. And then I've crossed my left leg over my right leg, and I'm going to start the twist to the left. So what I'm doing is, and I am pulling my stomach out of the way so I can get around. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm really trying to twist my upper body around so that my left shoulder is facing the back of the mat. And as I'm breathing into this, I'm sort of straightening out of the pose and then twisting a little bit further. So I hope you guys can still hear me. You can see that I've moved my arm into place, so I'm using that to push against my knee and breathing in and then twisting a little bit further. Breathing in and then twisting a little bit further. Breathing in, straightening up, and then twisting a little bit further. Now you can either sort of just cross your legs, or I think there's a little trick that I used to do. So stand up and turn around and look at that. Awesome. You guys are so cool. So, breathing in. Okay, starting to, move into the pose. And, you can just be pulling against your outer knee in half lotus, lotus, or easy pose. Or pulling against here, or you can get your elbow down, or like if you can straighten your arm and grab your ankle, that's another modification. So I'm breathing in, straightening out of the pose, and then breathing out. Breathing in, and then breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Okay, breathing in and breathing out. Okay. So the next pose is Lotus Pose. Now, this one, you do not want to F around with this one. Do not push yourself into it. If you want, to talk privately about ways that you can move towards Lotus, I'm happy to do that with you. This is not something that you should try to do. Your foot should never be like jacked into Lotus. Your ankle actually needs to be like at a right angle. You need to protect your foot. You need to protect your ankle. You're not going to jam it in. Like, the only way you should be doing it is if you can do it with your foot like that. You see, I can't even do half Lotus with my foot like that. So I'm just going to stay in this pose. You can also do, you can do butterfly, this pose, sort of open here. But, just settle into Lotus for a few minutes. One of the things that you can do if you are moving towards Lotus, again, this shouldn't, you should feel like you're stretching yourself, but this shouldn't hurt. You can pick your leg up like it's a little baby and rock it back and forth. And then other leg, and rock it back and forth. Oh yeah, that is such a great hip stretch. Yeah, really feeling it in there. Okay. Okay, another quick jump cut there, because I went and got my you guys don't need this. This is just so I can try to demonstrate crow without worrying too much about face planting. So for crow, it's an arm balance, and if you do not want to attempt it, a really great position to try to get yourself into is a sort of squatting pose where you're pushing your back is up straight, and you're in prayer position, and then, sort of pushing your knees apart. It's great. This is a great position to be in. You don't want to be sort of slumped, but it's a good one. So crow is, I've never been great at this, so we're just gonna have to work on it together again. Partially because I just am really scared about smashing onto my face. So your knees basically balance on the backs of your arms. And again, this is, every little lock is your stomach is tightened up, your mula bandha is pulled in. And if you can just kind of practice, figure out where it sort of doesn't kill to have your knees balanced on your arms. And then, you can just do like lifting your toe just for a second or two, just seeing if you can get in that balance. It's just kind of a matter of stacking everything in one place. Okay, this is helpful. Hi, Mathilde. I can use you to balance against. Oh, yep. So you can keep working on that, or you can, kind of work on that sort of, yeah. That squat pose. Give that a couple more minutes. Whatever feels good. And then if you want to, you can spend another couple minutes in child's pose. Mathilde. The backs of your arms might be sore from that, but the idea that you're really thinking about is just all of the power coming from your center. And then after you've had a second to sort of sit in child's pose, you can come up to standing. And we're going to do Paschimottanasana, which is the hands to feet pose. Going to get into that mountain pose again, get really rooted. Different types of yoga you can do. You can have your feet together. I feel more grounded when I have my feet hips width apart. So that's what I'm doing here. 4 corners of the feet on the ground. Tailbone tucked. Uddiyana Bandha, Mula Bandha. And then breathe in and breathe out. And sorry, this isn't Paschimottanasana. I think I said that. It's Padastasana, which means hands to feet. So you can do the same thing that you did in Paschimottanasana, forward bend, where you're breathing in and then breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. You can pull yourself further in, put your hands behind your feet. You can do the toe lock with your index finger and ring finger around your big toe and pull yourself in. And when I say pull yourself in, you're not really jacking yourself. It's just kind of a gentle guiding. If you're really feeling it, you can put your hands underneath your feet. And again, bend your knees if you need to. Whatever you need to do, this shouldn't hurt. It should feel like a challenge, but it shouldn't hurt. And then slowly breathe in and come up. We're going to do one more standing pose. So this is triangle. Now this is a tricky one because you really want to feel like in triangle that you are in between 2 plates of glass. So this is not triangle, even though my hand is on the ground. You want to turn your right foot out, so it's facing pointing towards the end of your mat. Left foot in about 45 degrees. Get your pelvis sort of squared. Breathe in. Okay. And then you are sort of shifting your left hip to the side and moving to the right, and then your arm goes down. And your left arm goes up. Now this is triangle. I'm not touching my ankle. I'm not touching the ground. If you can get further down and you want to ground your hand on something, you can add a block. But I'm trying to keep my pelvis as squared as possible.
And if you can, the focus is on the thumb. Breathe in, come out. Oh, that felt good. So right foot in, 45 degrees, left foot pointing towards the front of the mat. Get your plates of glass situated. Breathe in, and then exhale, and you're gonna start tilting towards the left, and bring your right arm up. Again, pulling in everywhere that I keep talking about. Breathe in and come to the front of your mat. So that's the practice for today. If you guys want to lie in Savasana, it's just really good to stay in Savasana as long as you can. When I trained as a yoga teacher, everybody was always jumping out of Savasana because we practiced starting at about 6 in the morning, and the Ashtanga series takes about an hour and a half. They made the most delicious breakfasts. So it was so difficult to stay in Shavasana when I knew that the most delicious bread I'd ever eaten was like 10 feet away from me. And the teachers would just holler at us. You guys are gonna be yoga teachers. You need to do this. This is part of the practice. And maybe, you don't have delicious bread on the other side of the door. Maybe you have a screaming 3-year-old, but, this is, mom needs her exercise time. So just like Coach MK and Coach Cara and Coach Nakia say that you need to stay in Shavasana. You need to chill out. This is part of what you're doing. This is an integral part of slow burn. Now, hang out here as long as you want. Like really sort of settle into your body. Think about how this went, what you liked, what you didn't like. Ideally you could also just meditate, but we'll work on that. We'll work on that a little later. And just let me know what you want to see more of. What you found challenging, if you want, specific guidelines on anything, and we'll work on this together as we work on slow burn together. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and joining Mathilde, and just want to say namaste.